So, on this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast, buying a new car. So, welcome back to this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast. My name is Shawn Yesner, owner and founder of Yesner Law. Welcome back. Your financial coach, George Corbello. How you doing, George?
Happy days are here again, my man. No, I'm doing good, brother. I gotta say, uh, it's gonna be repetitive. It's like, I got this and issue because the honey-do list just keeps growing, and I can't make it stop growing. But other than that, yeah, again, feeling blessed. I got my kid from college. She's coming home this weekend. So very excited about having the whole family together and kind of enjoying the home itself. So that's kind of where we're at this week.
Nice. I don't think the honey-do list ever goes away. I don't even have a honey anymore, and I have stuff on my honey-do list.
Jeez, the list. I gotta say, the list is. It's always something to clean, something to put up, something to build. So it's early on, but I'd imagine you're right. I feel like there's always something to do for sure. How you doing,
So,
brother? Everything good? How the kids?
everything's good. We were out of town last weekend, so I
Mm-hmm.
was actually kind of proud of myself. So, speaking of the Crushing It podcast, so my older son had a soccer tournament down in Punta Gorda. So, for those of you not familiar with Florida landscape, Punta Gorda is probably about 30 to 45 minutes south of Sarasota. And Sarasota is probably about an hour south of us here in the Tampa Bay area. So it was about an hour and 45-minute drive south. And it was a soccer tournament in Punta Gorda, and which is a little bit of a small town. Most people might have heard of Punta Gorda because it got nailed by a couple of the hurricanes that came through a
Right.
couple of years ago. So we have this soccer tournament in Punta Gorda, and the team had chosen a hotel that was like $340 a night.
Oh,
And
okay.
so I said to my son, I said, look, we got two choices. Your first game is Saturday at 8 o'clock in the morning. So we can stay at the team hotel, but I mean, that's kind of the max of what I want to spend on a hotel room. So
I would agree.
if we stay at the team hotel, we're only staying for the one night, which means we got to leave at like 5 in the morning on Saturday morning to make sure we get there in time for the game for warm ups and for all that stuff. Or there's like $100 a night hotel that's like 5 minutes away. And we could stay there and we can go down Friday night. That way we got Friday night. We don't have to wake up early on Saturday and we can stay Saturday night, whatever. And my son wanted to stay at the team hotel. And he said, and I guess, part of this was my son's like, well, I don't care. I'm not driving the car.
Hey,
So
my money.
yeah, if you want to wake up at 5 in the morning and drive and I'll sleep in the back seat, that works for me.
Right.
So I said, fine. So we booked the more expensive hotel. There was one other difference. The more expensive hotel was on the water, where the other hotel was kind of more inland. It wasn't on the water.
Okay. Okay. So
So
it
we
looked
booked them.
nicer. There was nicer. Okay.
Yeah, a nice, little bit of a nicer hotel. It was
Sure. Sure.
a suites instead of just rooms. So I booked that hotel. I went online the night before. So you could cancel the reservation before midnight, the night before you were supposed to check in. So I went online at like 9:15, 9:30 the night before Friday night when we were supposed to go down there. The room rate had dropped from 300 and I think it was $340 a night down to like 220. And so I called the hotel and I said, "Look, I got until midnight to cancel. I could book the room at 220 and then cancel the reservation at 340. Can you just switch me to the cheaper reservation?"
Right.
And they did a little bit of humming and hawing and blah blah blah, blah. And I said, you want to make me go through all that work or can you just do it for me? And so they ended up doing it. So I got a discount. I got about $120 discount on the room. So save
Without
myself some money
actually
there.
having to cancel and all, that's fantastic.
Yeah, without having to cancel and all that, they
Right.
just switch the reservation. So, for those of you that are going on vacation, never hurts to kind of check in on your
Keep an
hotel
eye.
reservations, your plane
Hmm.
reservations, see if any of them have gone down. I saved myself $120 by doing that.
Nice. And
So,
that's, again, that's a smart shopper. That's obviously something you want to make sure that you're always aware of those kind of things. And they have apps for that to keep an eye on those, especially a lot of times, certain weekends. certain times of the year, things like that can really play into those costs. But I love the fact that you found it last minute and we're like, wait a second, like I know you're charging me this, but if there's an opportunity to save
Right.
money, why am I going to give that up? So and
Well, the
yes, you're probably going to get the yes, sir. We'll see what we can do for you. Let me talk to the manager first to see if that's if we have the
yeah,
option to do that.
that's what it was. That's what it was. And the other interesting thing there is I got made fun of because when I turned 50, I got an invitation to join AARP,
Ah, okay.
and it's like $12 a year, something like
Hmm.
that. And so I figured, what the heck? And I joined, and the room rate that I got was the AARP rate.
Okay.
So I already made up the $12 that
There
it
you
costs to
go.
join
Got
AARP.
got got the savings already. Thank you AARP. That's for sure.
Thank you, AARP. So um anyway, that's what that's when I was kind of thinking about what do we want to talk about today. That was one of the things that came to mind. It's just some of those practical, real world scenarios a lot of us find ourselves in, day out. I mean,
Hmm.
for example, you just bought a house, and we talk all the time about, different ways that you've been able to cut here, trim there, negotiate here, negotiate there on buying the new house. Um, I just bought a new car. Excuse me. So I've always leased my cars, and my thought process has always been you buy what appreciates in value and you lease what depreciates in value.
Right.
Um, although the last time I leased my car, I really wanted to buy it. I wanted to build equity in something.
Hmm.
Car values were kind of just starting to tick up a little bit, and just the numbers didn't work out. So I leased the old car. Well, the lease. So I'll tell you all the good stuff that happened in the car purchase, but I'll tell you one bad thing that happened in the car
Uh-oh.
purchase. I didn't realize I set myself up on automatic payments on the car lease, and I
Okay.
forgot that the automatic payments come out the middle of the month. So literally the day I signed the papers and the day I brought the new truck home, the new car home, the bank automatically took the payment
They
on the
pulled it.
old lease.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So now I got to wait for them to process it. Then they got to get the payoff, and then they'll issue me a refund.
The refund check. So
So
you're talking at least 2 weeks, 3 weeks
yeah,
even.
2, 3 weeks. So if you're buying a new car, just be aware what your payment schedule is on the old one, and when
That's
you're
a
going to
good.
make
That's a
that.
good.
When
You
are
don't
they
want to.
going to
You don't want to give extra money.
right? So I mean, I'm going to get it back. It's not going to break me, but it's still a little annoying to lose out
Right.
on $400 for 2, 3 weeks. So anyway, I ended up getting a new car. I upgraded from I had a 4-door sedan, and I leased the last time a Nissan Rogue, an SUV.
Very nice.
And part of the reason there was just because, with the boys, so for example, as soon as you and I are done recording, I got to pack up. We're gonna head out for a long 3-day weekend, camping with Cub Scouts. But I got to load up the tent. I got to load up the
Right.
canopy. I got to load up the sleeping bags. I got to load up the air mattresses. I got to load up the luggage. I got to load up, and that just didn't work in a 4-door
Yeah. A little
sedan with a
car.
trunk.
No. No way.
Right.
No way.
And soccer, loading up all the soccer. I don't know if you remember when we first started recording the show, I was still coaching
Yeah. You
soccer,
were the
and
coach. Yeah.
so I just needed a bigger car for that stuff. So I ended up leasing a Nissan Rogue about 3 years ago. Well, and because of everything else that's gone on in my life, I was just slow in getting back out there to research now that the Nissan Rogue lease was coming to an end. So I drove. One thing I've always done is I've always been loyal to the brand. Number one, I like Nissans, but number
Yeah.
two, it doesn't matter how many miles I go over on the lease. It doesn't matter what minor body damage there is to the car. If I go from a Nissan to a Nissan, they typically waive all that nonsense.
Right.
So
That's a good tip as well in regards to,
yeah,
from a car going lease or lease to lease, or again, if any of those kind of things. If you stay loyal to, they do have benefits. They do have loyalty programs that also give discounts as well. So that makes sense as
right.
part of that.
So I end up going to Nissan, back to Nissan. I got one more month left on my lease. I need to get a new car. So I got back to Nissan, and they presented me with three choices. Option number one was to lease a brand new Nissan Rogue, but the payment would have been between $200 and $250 more than what I'm paying now.
Jeez, so you talking 4 to 6?
Yeah, for
Wow.
low 400 to mid 600.
Whew. Okay, that's not
Yeah,
good.
I was like, well, we can eliminate that option right off the bat.
Thanks for playing.
Yeah. Option number two was I could buy my car,
Right.
but I could buy out the lease. But the challenge with buying out the lease, the car needed new tires. It needed its next oil change.
Hmm.
If I wanted it to be certified pre-owned by Nissan, it would have had to go through an inspection. And so even though, it would have been cheaper as an MSRP, it would have been cheaper as a sticker price
Yeah.
to buy my car, it would have added about 3 or 4 grand to the payoff to get the new tires, to get the oil
To
rotation,
pass an
the oil
inspection.
change, to,
Yeah.
replace the blinker fluid, all that stuff that new cars need. Yeah,
Now,
you
and
didn't
the
catch.
what's the other two? If there are how many miles was on the car?
I was a little bit over. I when I leased it, I
Thirty
had
thousand.
12,000 a year, and I was at like 37,000.
Okay, so there's certain things that they have to do as well at the close to 40,000, so it probably would have added on to that too. Okay,
Right.
all right.
So that was option number two. Probably it would have raised my payment up to about $500 a month to buy the car, to buy
Okay,
out
because
the
you're
lease.
doing 5 year, 3 year, 5 year. What's the
It was a it was a 5 year financing at
gotcha?
about $500 a month.
Okay, still expensive,
Then
but again, okay.
yeah, then they presented me with a certified pre-owned. So I had a 2021 Nissan Rogue blue with a dark interior.
Yep.
They showed me a 2021 red Nissan Rogue with a tan interior that was $1,000 cheaper. It had already been certified pre-owned. It had brand new tires. It was current on all its oil changes.
Hmm.
It had about 40,000 miles on it, so a few thousand more miles. But it was certified pre-owned, so Nissan is going to stand behind it and say, "Oh, something with the lease. If I had bought the lease,
Sure.
I would have had to have bought an extended warranty." Well, by being certified pre-owned, it comes with an extended warranty.
Gotcha.
So all of that would have came out to be about $1,000 less, which made my monthly payments under $500 a month, like 492 or
Okay.
whatever it is.
Sure.
So that's what I decided to do. I ended up buying
So it had the
a
car. It
Nissan
had
Rogue.
all the things certified. The extended warranty came with it, and you were able to kind of manage. Okay, that worked.
Yeah,
That's not
so
bad
that's what I
itself.
did.
A little,
Raised my payments over what I was paying for the lease, but
yeah.
I'm building equity now. So
How was
you
the
know,
mileage on it?
it was about so my old car was about 37,000 miles. This new car was either 41 or 42,
Okay, so slightly over. Okay,
slightly over, but it's certified pre-owned.
and it
So
looked
it's been
good. Body
through
was good. New tires. I'd imagine everything that was needed itself. Hey, you
new
know what?
tires, no body damage, clean Carfax report. Um, little old lady used it just to go to the grocery store and back. I don't know, something like that.
In Montana apparently.
Right.
No,
So,
that's good though. But again,
eh,
it's you have to look at and present into your options when we talk about. I mean, we had an episode in the past in regards to buying versus lease, and obviously what works for you. But I like how you broke down the mechanics of how to think this through. Now, did you feel any pressure when you were in the dealership in regards to one way? Or were they trying to push one way or the other, or were they, like how were they working with you as sales folks?
they were actually not too bad. I mean, one of the other things that I did before I went was I preloaded a financial calculator on my iPhone,
Hmm.
and I programmed one in. Um, I mean, not at the expense of giving this company a plug, The name of the app that I downloaded was, let me find it, Easy Calculators.
Okay.
But within that app, it's got a loan calculator, it's got an auto loan calculator, and it's got
Okay.
an auto lease calculator. So it's funny when I said, well, what's the lease interest rate? And they said, well, we don't do interest rates on leases anymore. And I went, yes, you do.
Yeah.
And they said, no, we do money factors. Well, for those of you that don't know,
Money
what they do
factor.
is in order to convert from the money factor to the interest rate, you just multiply the money factor by 2,400, and that gets you to the interest rate. So what I said, they were like, well, how much do you want to put down? I said, you know what? Assume I'm putting down zero, and then I can determine based on the calculations. You know, if I put down $1,000, it'll save me X. If I put down
Right.
$2,000, it'll save me this. If I put down $5,000, it'll save me that. You know, assume I'm going to put down zero, and then I'll calculate the rest. And I said, you know, what's the interest rate? Well, sir, we use a money factor. Great. What's the money factor? You know, what's the monthly term? And so I was actually the first time they brought me the lease figures.
Yeah.
I was able to plug them into the calculator, and I said, you know, you're charging me an interest rate of like 18%. That's not going to work.
Yeah.
And they said, oh no, it's a money factor. And I said, dude, the interest rate is the money factor times 2,400.
Right.
You know, I'm not dumb. So you're charging me an interest rate of X. I said, get the interest rate down. Maybe we got a deal. But even when we went down to what are now reasonable lease rates, it still was like a $600 mortgage payment. And then the other thing you've got to consider on a lease, you're not paying. So if they say that the MSRP of the car is $35,000,
Yeah.
well, when you buy it, you're paying $35,000 over, you know, whatever term at whatever
Three,
interest
five
rate.
years, whatever. Yep.
When you lease it, you're paying to the residual value. So you need to know what that number is.
Sure.
So if the residual value is 15,000 and the car is 35,000, then really my lease payments are paying 20,000 at whatever the money factor is
Whatever.
over
Right.
whatever period of time. But
Correct.
you can use the financial calculator and say, guys, I get it, but these numbers ain't working. One number, your interest rate's off, your term
Something's
is
up.
off, you need to
Right.
lower your payment. And it's not, I don't necessarily care. I mean, if you said you only have to pay $1 a month, but your interest rate is 97%, who cares? I'm paying now. Obviously, that would never be true numbers,
Right.
but
I'd say I think we'd have some issues there.
right. But my point is, people focus on the interest rate when they should really be focusing on the payment.
Interesting. See, I would never have. It's one of those kind of things. Why do you think this money factor itself, is that something new? Is that something? Because again, I've never heard that as part of your business or when you're buying the car itself. What is that? What's the origin, or what are we talking about when we talk about this money factor?
You know, that's a good question. I don't know why. And it's only for leases because, you know, I ended up buying the car. And when I bought the car, my interest rate is what, 8 point something percent. So they do use interest rates when you buy. They only use money factor when you lease. And, you know, I honestly, I don't know why they use money factor. I mean, I'm kind of looking it up on the internet right now. Um, oh, here, so the monthly lease payments on the car include depreciation, taxes, and interest.
Mm,
So, yeah, if the car is expected to depreciate in value by $5,000 annually, this amount will be factored into the monthly payments.
yep.
Sales taxes are charged on both depreciation and interest and are included in the monthly payment of the lease.
Ah,
To
you can
determine
tell
the
you've done
interest,
your research, because it says here too that what is included in the calculation is the lease term, the lease charge, capitalized costs, and the residual value.
right.
Mister Yesner for the win. I gotta say that's pretty impressive itself. But again, you think, right, because they're honestly not telling you. They're kind of telling you we don't do it by interest rate, yet it is, and
Right.
that I mean, do you think that's a little deceptive, or is it just more of like, hey, consumer, we need to do a little bit more research when it comes to leasing? Obviously, that's probably going to play into not just leasing cars, but like leasing other vehicles or tractors. A lot of folks who do those kind of things, where they do little kind of lease programs as well for some of these things.
Yeah, I think it's just, honestly, I don't know. Maybe it's something we can research and
Yeah,
talk
we got to
about
research.
on a future show, but I think it's just a function of you can't really call it an interest rate because it's not an interest rate on principal.
Right,
It includes, like we've said, it includes taxes, it includes depreciation, it includes other types of things. But, again, the way you get from the money factor to the interest rate is you multiply the money factor by 2400. And by
interesting.
doing that, you get to the interest rate. So I remember the interest rate, I forget what the money factor that they quoted me. The interest rate ended up being, I want to say like 13.5%. So when you divide that by 2400, you get a money factor of 0.005625.
Right.
So they say that, well, the money factor is 0.005625. And you go, great. You multiply
That's
that by
that's low.
2400, you get to 13.5% interest.
Right.
So,
Fascinating. See, I'm hoping we all learned something because I did. I'm like, wait a second, money factor, interest rates. I knew there was something that played into it, but I never would have never put together something. And I think I've only leased one car. Most of the cars we've had, we've purchased because that's what everybody tells you. That's the best way to do a car. I'm like, again, we've done an episode already on leasing and
yeah,
buying, so we can you can go back into history on that one. But it's one of those kind of things. These are factors as a consumer and a customer itself. Go out there and really do your research. Understand, the logistics of how you lease to see. Again, you don't want to feel like you're going in there unknown
right.
in regards to
I think
leasing.
it's more doing your, yeah, like you said, do your research, bring the calculators with you.
That's it.
There's, and the one that I found is just one that I found. It's not,
Yeah.
I haven't, they're not a sponsor of the show or anything. It's
No,
just,
it's just
it's just
you Google and get for free. Why not? It's
it's
available
a
to you. And
calculator that I found, but I used it to negotiate. The other interesting thing that I've got to figure out now is, we still have my wife's car.
yep.
And so I was able to go to so here's another interesting issue. I had to get the car title. So my wife's car is paid off. We bought that one.
Hmm.
But it's paid off. And I don't know where the car title is. And so I go onto the internet and I search, how do I order my car title in Florida, whatever it was I researched. And I came upon a website that, they'll do it for you. And so I got all the way to the end where it said, here's where you input your credit card information to get the car title. And it was something like 140 bucks,
Right.
130 something dollars to get the car title. And when I looked, I was like, why is the DMV charging me 130, 140 bucks to get my wife's car title? Because
Right.
I'm joined on the car.
Digital. It's a digital. Usually it's digital too. So yeah, that
It
seems like a lot
is.
of money.
Well, it was a private website.
Of
So
course.
when I figured out what the DMV website was, and I went on to the DMV website, they're mailing me a copy of the car title for $4.50.
That sounds a lot more. That sounds a
Yeah.
lot more reasonable.
So, I mean, I'm not trying to imply that this other company was a
No,
scam. I'm sure they're doing a legit service, but
that's a large markup.
yeah, yeah, paying them 130 bucks for something I could get myself for $4.50.
It's funny. I remember you had mentioned too with the house. That I expect a letter
Right.
about the title. And getting, hey, that's if you need the title, it's 100 and. You said it was like $80, right? But you can go online. I think it's like $4 or $8 or something like that. And I'm like looking through the mail last week, and I was like, Mr. Yesner is again. He's freaking right again, this guy. So I got the letter. They were charging for it. Again, you said less than, $10 or whatever. They were charging $135
Wow.
to actually get something that you can easily get for. And it looks legit. It's like, important information. You gotta act now, not, and it's not an act now, but again, fine print. It's not affiliated with your mortgage, with your mortgage company itself. So if you're not really looking, you're thinking, oh, I do need a copy of that. And of course, I did get the copy eventually. The title company was able to, they said they were going to include it as part of the closing. So I was
Right.
able to get the electronic record and all that kind of stuff. But if you're not paying attention, you again, I want to say it's deceptive, but again, most people we just thinking like, oh wow, like I do need that. Man, that's a lot of money, but I need it. I'm gonna have to pay
I
it
need
that
it.
one time cost kind of thing. No big deal. So it's funny how it's even our cars, our houses. It seems like it's all out there when it comes to those
Yeah.
kind of things. So again, just keep in mind, do the research and know what's out there in regards to what you should be paying for some of these the titles, these kind of things. It's just got to be educated when it comes to that kind of
I
stuff.
I think that's what it is. It's just getting educated. So
I
so
love it.
meanwhile,
I gotta love that. But again, the I'll have a house story for us on the next episode because it's a little lengthy, but again, a tip for folks when it comes to you know uh, we have extra things. What do we do with stuff? How do we make some extra money in regards to those kind of things? So I'll kind of tease it a little bit, but you got to always look for opportunities to kind of we're always worried like how am I going to make money? What am I going to do with this old stuff? What do we do with this kind of things itself? Like there's different ways to kind of manage that between donations and selling and making money, but always look for opportunity. Do your
well,
research.
so real quick, last thing on the car. The reason I brought up the car title is I want to sell my wife's car because
Sure.
that'll drop. When I got the new car, my insurance went down. My insurance
Yes.
payments went down. When I can get rid of my wife's car, there'll be one less car to insure, so my insurance payments will go down. So I'm trying to get rid of the car. What I'm trying to figure out now is Edmunds said the car was worth about my wife's car is worth about 1,700 bucks. Carvana said they'd give me 1,500 bucks for it. I'm wondering if I can donate the car and get more than
Ah,
15 to 17 as a tax deduction.
interesting. Interesting.
So
It's but you'll have to talk to your tax advisor on that one.
yeah, I'm going to talk to my CPA about that.
There's no rush though. Obviously, the only thing you're losing is the monthly insurance payment. That just to cover the two
I'm
cars.
losing a little bit on monthly insurance, and right now, even though we have a 3-car garage, we only have room in the garage for one of the
Two
cars.
or
So
one.
right now,
Oh,
my wife's car is in the garage. If I can get rid of that, I can start parking my car in the
you can
garage.
get some more space there. Okay, all right. So but again, those are first world problems. I think
First
you'll be
world
okay.
problems. Exactly.
I think we'll be
So
okay. One day at a time
meanwhile,
with that, my brother. But I'm glad you're feeling good. Congrats on the new car.
thank you.
I'll give you one thing from our family. And again, a lot of folks itself. I have a 16-year-old who is learning how to drive, and she's driving on again. If you're familiar with the area, Route 19, the Skyway Bridge, she's doing all that kind of stuff. So I'm a little nervous for a 16-year-old. But what I'm really nervous about is how high that insurance payment is going to go. for insuring a 16-year-old. I was like, honey, can we wait a few years for you to learn how to drive? Because I don't think I can afford you. You're going to be very expensive on the road. She's a very good driver, but these are the things that we have to think about when it comes to insuring. Because I have got the two girls.
Right.
They're going to be driving, and then obviously our car payments and things like that. Well, we don't do car payments, sorry, but we don't but the insurance payments. So. Things to think about. Again, your boys are not at that age yet in regards to driving, but boy, oh boy, I would say start saving now. Put it in the budget, so you don't have to worry because that payment does get scary when those guys get on the road.
I
But
can imagine.
yeah, that's dude. Congrats, man. Seriously, on that. And I'm glad. Again, I'm not a big fan of red or burgundy kind of color. But I
Oh, it's better than Gator Blue.
True, true indeed, true indeed. I'll give you that. That's all right. Yeah, you don't want to do that. You want to stick to your alma mater colors. So that's okay.
There you go.
All right,
So
brother.
meanwhile, we can talk about Sam Cohen, our sponsor. If you're
Yes.
an attorney or title company, you need errors and omissions insurance, contact Sam at attorneysfirst.com. He'll give you apples to apples with what you got now, whether you've been in an issue before, whether you've had claims before or not. If you're starting up a new firm, if you're starting up a new title company anywhere in the country, give Sam a buzz or contact him, Sam at Attorneys First. I remember a couple months ago, Sam put out a challenge that he will always answer on the first ring. So if you want to go
Okay.
to attorneysfirst.com and call Sam and challenge him to answer on the first ring. Also, I need to make some car payments now. So if you want to go to the Crushing Debt, the Patreon/Crushing Debt page, no, all the
Supports the
payments that
show.
all the money that we get through Patreon goes back into the show. It does not make my car payments. And then the last thing is the Purple Stride Walk through the PanCan organization. And again, I'll put the link there if you want to donate to pancreatic cancer research, prevention, cure. I would appreciate that as well. But I think that'll do it for this week's episode. Anything more, George?
No, I appreciate it. I will now go jump and do my do list because I don't want my wife getting mad at me. She's already mad at me for Valentine's Day, so I'm not gonna
Ooh.
compound the issue at this point. So
Yeah, no, no, no. Get her some. I know a guy that sells flowers if you need them.
there you go.
So
Love it.
that will do it for this week's episode, and we will talk to you in next week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast.